The Halfbrick Show.
Welcome back to the Halfbrick Show, your favorite podcast, which is made by Halfbrick for Halfbrick fans and for anyone who enjoys games, behind the scenes stories, and finding out just how many tiny little pixels it takes to make someone look like they've been punched really, really hard. I'm Carmen, graphic designer as always, and I'm joined here by Aiden. Hey Aiden, how are you doing?
Yeah. Hey, Carmen. I'm doing good. You know, it's always good to record a podcast. I know we do it every week, but it feels like it's been ages. And yeah, I don't know about the number of pixels thing. I feel like every frame of a game, I don't know if there's any way you could count that. Something like Dan the Man. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm glad we're talking to like someone today who actually may know a bit more about that art side of things than I do on the pixel side.
Yeah, it's quite funny that you went ahead and mentioned Dan the Man, because we've been wanting to do this episode for a little while. And since I'm a designer, well, let's just say that art interests me a lot. So yay me, another design and art related episode. I feel like the design community is winning with me as a
Yeah.
host.
Honestly, and I am learning a lot. So to talk us through that world today, we're joined by Toni, an artist who's been at Halfbrick for over 12 years, I believe. We'll ask him in a moment, and has worked across like so many projects. It's really awesome. Jetpack Joyride 2 and Dan the Man. I almost said Dan the Man 2. Wouldn't everyone love me to talk about that? So let's get into that episode. Let's go.
Who the brick are you?
So welcome, Toni. We'll ask you the same thing we ask everyone first, which is, who the brick are you? Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hello, guys. Yeah, I'm
Hey,
Toni. I'm from Spain and I live close to Barcelona. And yeah, as you said, I've been here in Halfbrick for a while, more than 10 years.
Wow.
More than 10. Is it 12?
Is it 12?
We thought 12. Yeah.
Yeah, 12.
It is 12?
Is a good number. 12 and a half, or I don't remember well. I started here as a junior with On Demand. And yeah, I've been jumping in different projects along the way and always as an artist.
Wow. So that's quite exciting and quite rare. I feel like we haven't talked to many of the artists in Halfbrick yet, so thank you.
No, we gotta keep getting more artists on here, I think.
Yes, please.
Definitely. Yeah.
So thank you for coming in. This might seem like an odd question, but how would you explain your job to someone that really doesn't know what a game artist does? And 'cause I know you do art, but imagine that I don't know that.
That's a good question because every time I do a different thing. But usually what I say is all you can see moving on the screen, there is a good chance that I had something to do with it, you know? That's a good explanation, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
does a typical day for you look like? Are you drawing in pen and paper, or have we left that phase behind?
Yeah, I left that phase. Almost everything today I do is digital. It depends of the work, but yeah, I don't really draw too much in paper, I have to say.
But you got like drawing tablet? You have one too, don't you, Carmen? Like those digital ones with the pens?
Yeah, with the pen, and sometimes if you have to do something technical like working with vectors and so, sometimes I'm even using my mouse, so it depends of the work.
Oh, right. Is it you might be able to answer this. This is I guess with Dan the Man, are like pixelated games, right? Art for that. Have you ever used a pen to draw pixel art? How does that work? Or is that mouse click by click? I've always wondered.
Yeah, it depends of the artist because along the years I met a lot of artists that they draw with the tablet. But back in the day when I started working on demand, I did it everything with my mouse. So my finger still hurts from that day. It was too much. I think it depends on the artist, but you can do half and a half. You know, when you are drawing big pieces, it's better to use probably a tablet.
Right.
Yeah.
And like color filling is where you use like something. Okay.
Well, you can use the bucket, but I mean, if you, for example, you are drawing a big a boss or you are drawing a background or whatever, probably it's better to start with the pen. But if you are into details or drawing little faces or little sprites, I work better with mouse, but it's a personal thing. Every artist is a worry.
Yeah, your grip strength must be crazy though. Because whenever I draw with a mouse, unless it's a vector, just you can see how shaky my hand actually is.
Yeah. You have to hear my hand when I close my hand.
This is a very important question for the podcast. Do you use a vertical mouse or not? Because we are vertical mouse enjoyers here.
Yeah, we are.
No, but I want to try one. I never tried one, but I am always thinking that I will get used to it. So I never tested one. So I'm a regular mouse enjoyer for now.
It's totally fair. I maybe Carmen as well. We both fell for the hype of like, it's good for your wrist. I love it now, but back in the day,
I didn't feel for the hype. My doctor actually recommended it to me. Take care of your wrists, guys. This is a public health message from the Halfbrick Show. Gamers, don't spend too much time playing League of Legends on a normal mouse, gamers.
That's
or in general.
Advice.
No, I'm kidding. Toni, speaking of other games, what's your favorite game of all time? Love to ask this question.
That's difficult because we have a lot of favorite games. I will say one, even if I will sound as an old man, that is Another World. Do you know that game? Another World?
Yes, that's
it's
the MMO, isn't it?
It's now known as Out of This World in some places. It's a cinematic platformer. That back in the day was way ahead of its time, so I really love that game. I can compare that one. I can compare that one with another modern one that it's Inside. Inside, probably you will know that one.
Oh yes,
Inside is reminds me a lot to Another World because it's also a cinematic platformer, and it's one of my favorite games ever, probably too.
Wow, did you play the was it Limbo, the one before Inside from Playdead Studios?
Yeah, but I prefer Inside. Because Limbo it was really cool that moment, but it's more a puzzle game to me. And Inside is like it's a narrative along the way, but they don't talk. You have to be figuring out what is happening all the time, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Like in Dandaman, they don't talk. So maybe I can see pieces.
I have no idea how Dan would go in a story like Inside if you merge that world together. It's a pretty wild one.
Punching and kicking.
You'd probably get by doing that. Would something like Another World be one of your inspirations to get into the games industry, Toni?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I never decided formally to work on video games industry. Back in the day, I remember that I used to love I bought all the magazines related with video games back in the day. I really loved to buy magazines. And if you ask me, then maybe I would say that I wanted to be a game journalist related with video games or something like that. So I never thought about becoming an artist. But somehow I started getting involved in some fan projects or making art for some retro platforms like MSX. It's a really old computer. And also, I'm too old, sorry. And I was writing maybe some pixel art, really basic tutorials on the internet and so. And eventually I became an artist. So it was not planned at all.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, there wasn't like a piece of on like those magazines or the old covers that you thought like you'd try to get into making cover art or that more specific art. Anything
No,
like that?
I was more interested maybe in the art of the games,
The
pixel art, the sprites, and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been looking at a couple of screenshots from Another World because I completely thought it was a different game. But I can see. Not a full inspiration, but I could see how that the style of that even could be a little inspirational. That's cool.
Yeah, what's crazy about Another World, for example, the animations was one thing that really impressed me. Like it was everything really smooth, like I was used to see sprites in some different games like really low FPS, and then in another world the characters were moving really smooth, and it was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty. Because
Yeah.
what other games are out around Another World's time? I can't see the date, but it looks really cool. We will try and maybe put a picture on screen or look it up Another World if you're listening.
That would be cool.
And yeah, you'll see that for the time that's really well, they remastered it as well. Oh, I'm going off
91.
topic, but that's yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Comparing with other games in that years, it was really way ahead. So it was crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I'm sure that our listeners will appreciate as well, just to know a little bit more about video game history and games that might not be as popular, sadly. So moving on a little bit to your work here at Halfbrick, could you tell us what you're working on at the moment, if you can?
If I can.
If you're allowed to. Well, I'm just saying because the Halfbrick Show does love a good leak, but we don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Okay. No, honestly, I've been jumping between projects on projects. So I've been working in different games lately. But yeah, I've been for a while in Halfbrick Sports Football. But probably I will jump to another project to help in another project. But yeah, I'm not sure if I can say. But yeah, I'm jumping right now. I'm jumping between different projects.
Yeah.
How's football? That's very 3D, like polygonal art. Are you doing texture work on a game like that?
No,
Or-
I'm working in things related with icons, for example, or
Oh, of course.
yeah, and also some extra art related with the characters, but everything in 2D. So we have 3D artists that are working on the model and so. And from time to time, I'm also helping with some concepts. I'm helping with giving feedback and these kind of things.
Okay, really cool. Do you think, I guess, in the grand scheme of all the different games you've jumped across, when you look back at it over your time here, is there one kind of biggest change in how you've been making art, or even how Halfbrick's been doing art?
Yeah, probably the biggest change is that we have more tools than ever, and they are more powerful than ever. And some of the things we were used to do in the day and the processes are way much easier today. So that's one of the big changes. But there are other things that never change. That like is learn with the other artists on the company. We have a lot of good artists here, and you are always learning when you are jumping in another project. There are other artists there, and you are always learning from the other teammates.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have mentioned over the time, because we've been up to 35 episodes in the Halfbrick Show, I want to say, and a lot of people have mentioned learning from each other and just trying to constantly evolve. So I think that's really beautiful. That's a really good answer. On that same note, you've touched a lot of different Halfbrick projects over the years, and as you have said, you have jumped from project to project. Is there one project that stands out from the rest? Maybe it's your favorite or one that has taught you the most?
Well, I've learned a lot with all the different projects, but I have to confess that I have a special relation with On-Demand, probably because it was my first job here in Halfbrick. So when I started here, it was like I was really junior, and it was like, here you have. And it was really, really hard back in the day, but I have really good memories. So probably I will say On-Demand.
What was it like working on well, can you tell us anything a bit more about working on On-Demand as a whole? It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I remember that I'd only seen the first episode on the show before joining the company. And when I started the project, I discovered that there were a lot of more episodes. I enjoyed all of them. And yeah, working on that game, it was like an amazing experience. It was like I'm a lover of platform games and
Yeah.
pixel art and so, and there is a lot of nostalgia in that demand about those times. And yeah, it was crazy. It was like, hey, I know that show, and I'm working on this right now. So it was crazy.
Mm.
Yeah. But was it difficult to, because I mean, you were working on a game that was based on a show. So was it difficult to respect that existing feel, that existing vibe of the show while still making sure that everything translated well to gameplay?
Mm, I would say that it was more an advantage because
Mm.
I was a really junior artist back in the day. So having a clear way to go with the art and with the style, it was really helpful to me because I had like a real clear guide of art style. It's like, okay, you have to do this. It was, but in the other hand, trying to get out of your comfort zone and try to replicate something that is not your style,
Mm.
it's quite difficult. But I will say that it was. I'm happy that we were working an IP that it was so clear.
Yeah. Yeah, and the animation of the anime was like already perfect for the game, obviously, because it's pixel art. So
But
that
did you
could
have
have
to
been enough.
review the sprites for the animation? From the
Uh,
animation, sorry.
it depends. When I started, we had a lot of sprites and animations from the show,
Mm.
and others from some prototypes that back in the day Harvey was trying to prototype just to see. So when I started, I didn't start from scratch. So
Mm.
I have some things to see how everything was built. But yeah, that was at the very beginning. At some point, everything was to be done. So I had to create things
Wow.
from scratch. But it was really helpful to start with some basics here and there.
Mm.
It was really helpful to me.
Yeah. Okay. So if you did touch those things, animations, let's say, or like the sprites for, I mean, the anime's full of action, right? You got punches, kicks, there's enemies flying around, explosions, chaos. I'm sure we don't have to go over all all of that. Um, do you have like a secret to making that action feel satisfying in pixel art? Like the gameplay juice? How do you
Gameplay
is
juice.
there a secret for that?
Yeah. Well, the secret, in my opinion, is that is more related with design than with art. I mean,
Ah,
I would say that most of the credit goes to the design team because if the
right.
combat didn't feel good, it doesn't matter how good is the art. You have to have a solid base. For example,
Mm,
if you are using the correct hitboxes, adding some freezes, some camera shakes, all these kind of things is more design related
mm,
game feel experience. But if that is well done, then with the art you are going to the next level. So that said, related with art, I
mm,
remember we were spending a lot of time working on effects, mostly the impact effects and the explosions and all that, because that was really important. If you remove the effects of the impacts and all that, it feels
mm.
completely different. That's true.
Yeah, true. So some VFX as well. Did you work
Mm.
on those?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
would have like drawn. Yeah, cool.
Wow. Wow, maybe, well,
Now
considering that. Oh,
I
sorry,
say,
go, go.
yeah, and now I say that with a smiling, but back in the day, it was a bit of it was a pain. I have to confess.
Yeah, I've done very brief VFX stuff for a couple of
Mm,
like university
yeah.
projects and game jam. I don't like VFX personally.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
cool,
Sorry,
but it's
artists.
something. I mean, if you are used to work in characters or props or whatever,
Mm,
working on VFX is a completely different topic. So I can
yeah,
understand. Yeah.
particle systems. I don't want to go there.
Mm.
I don't want to.
I know.
But it's cool. It is cool.
Because when you draw like an explosion in pixel art, you have to do it frame by frame, I assume, if it's with a particular shape or if it's not like a preset that you can do in Unity or whatever engine you're
Yeah.
using, right?
If you want to be a pixel perfect purist, you have to do it frame by frame. But I have to say that if I have to do it again in the future, I'm open to use other techniques that are like using particle systems or moving things, scaling things, and these kind of things. But this is not real pixel art, you know. If a purist is hearing me, so don't get crazy. But you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But in Dandeman 1, 90% is perfect pixel art with frame by frame animations and all that.
Yeah, I've worked for some of them, and it's very satisfying because you scale them up. They look perfect. They are perfect in every way. It's really, really amazing work, and I think that we have a community of fans that also really, really appreciates that. So shout out to all of the artists in the community. That some of them are pixel artists. So hopefully they like this episode.
I do love to see more pixel art come along. Like I know, like you just said, it's very tedious and it's a perfectionist art form if you want to go all the way. But it looks so good, pixel art done right. You know,
I love
voxel
pixel
is
art
cool as well, but you can tell like the detail in pixel art. Really cool.
Like crocheting.
Yeah.
I really love when people embroider, like Stardew Valley sprites, for example. I just really, really love it. Pixel art in real life, that's the sweet spot for me. So yeah, if anyone has any fan art that they want to share, remember that we have an email, we have our Discord community, whatever you want, we are here for you. So speaking of perfection, I guess we wanted to ask if you had a favorite Dan pose, an attack, an animation, or a little visual moment from the game that you will always remember.
There are so many, but maybe I will say the uppercut attack move. I really like that animation, and also it's a movement that I use a lot when I play Dandeman because it's so powerful. So yeah, I will choose that one. Even when you improve the movement and there is like fire going there and so yeah, I will choose that one.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but that uppercut animation is in the Halfbrick Plus intro. Like that, there used to be that video intro. It's ingrained in my brain. As soon as you said the uppercut, I just pictured that little playing because I've seen it so many times from that. And also, the fire upgrade. You got to fully upgrade your attacks if you're playing Dandeman
You
you haven't done that. You got to do that. Yeah. Okay, so aside from that, is there anything else that you'd say was like your favorite thing to draw in Dandeman, or I guess any Halfbrick project? Like enemies, more environmental stuff, props, or like you said, the effects. Have you got a favorite?
That's a good question because I enjoy all of it, because if you are drawing, for example, characters all the time, at some point you want to draw some props or you want to draw some things related with background. So in the mix, I think is the way to go. You have to be changing of task. But if I have to choose, I probably say that working on enemies probably is one of the best things I really like the most, because you have to think about the personality of the character, the little details, how the character should behave. I enjoyed it a lot in Dandeman, but I also remember in Jetpack Joyride 2 that we were creating like robots with a lot of different shapes, and a robot looks like an animal or looks like a wash disher or whatever. It was crazy creating concept for those, so it was really fun to work on that.
Yeah, those robots are pretty sick. A lot of them have like different armor, or like different levels, right? I'd say with the designs, you got like the entry level version of that robot, and then it goes up and up until you got like. I'm horrible at describing this. I might need another visual. I'm so sorry, listeners. But the JJ2 enemies, I do remember they're also pretty iconic. because when you're doing the level select or the map screen, you can see on. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, they were so cool. So, is there a man enemy that was especially fun to work on that you can give us maybe a little sneak peek behind the scenes and the concept process?
About enemies, I remember probably the bigger ones because at some point I was kind of tired drawing always the smallest ones. But when I started working on the bigger ones was fun to do, but I will choose probably the drone because the drone was
Mm.
completely different from the other enemies. It was flying, it has like different faces, like he's aware of you, he's just walking around, he's attacking with a electric attack, and so it was really fun to create that one. And we didn't have any reference, so it was like free to us to create that character. So it was really cool.
Mm.
Yeah, and I feel like it's an iconic look as well, right? Like it always
Mm.
reminds me of an old film camera from a
Yeah,
cinema or something.
it's like a drone mixed with a camera, vigilance camera, or something like that.
Yeah, it's so cool because I think that nowadays, if you think of a drone, you probably think of like the four leggies and the
Yeah.
four like
Yep.
helixes. So it's really, really interesting to see a different take on it. But I guess that's the magic of concept artists, right?
Mhm.
Mm.
And if you let me add, it's not related with enemies, it's related with a moment in Dan Demand that I really
Mm.
remember a lot. Is the final cutscene of the Fright Zone campaign.
Mm.
The final one, I remember that it was really fun to work on it. We had a lot of creative freedom for doing it, and I think it turned out really well, in my opinion.
Mm.
I remember being really happy with how it came all everything together, how the gags were working and all that. So if any of you haven't seen it, I recommend you to take a look at that.
Yeah. The whole Fright Zone and what's the other one? Winter Zone?
Mhm.
Those are both pretty cool. Yeah. And I actually don't know how they came around, but they came out after the initial release of the game. Were they like extra updates?
Yeah, there were extra updates. We had
Mm.
only the main campaign. At some point, we decided to create different little campaigns to expand a little bit the universe. We
Mm.
started with the winter one, and then we did the Fright Zone that we had a bit more of experience. It was designed for pro players. It's more difficult than the other
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So you have to, yeah, you have to be sure your character is up to date to play that one.
Mm. So again, upgrade those movement abilities. No.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Perfect segue. We want to ask as well. Speaking of Fright Zone, do you have any horrifying pixel art moments? So something that you thought would be super easy, and then it turned into a nightmare, and it took like a week to get one sprite or something.
Yeah, I have to confess, I had a lot of those back in the day.
Well, it was
because
your first sprite. Yeah.
yeah, because as I said, I was really junior back in the day. I remember one of the the difficult ones was that we were rotating all the collectible items in the game,
Oh yeah.
like the weapons, everything. Everything is rotating when you can interact with that. But I remember doing the animation for the apple. You can get an apple that is a health item, and I remember the designer say you have to do that apple rotating, and it was like how I do that. It's like a ball,
Yeah.
but I trying to rotate that one, but it's not working. I remember that silly thing
Mm.
drove me crazy back in the day.
How did you do
How?
it at the end
Yeah.
with the leaf?
Yeah, with the leaf and also with trying to move a little bit the shine of the apple. It was the shine all the time in the same place, but I was like moving, shaking a little bit the shine and kind of work. But yeah, I remember that I didn't know how to do that.
But I
Oh
think
man.
it's great, and thank you for sharing that to us because I think
Mhm.
that as an artist, it's really easy to get stuck and to think, oh, I cannot do it. And then when you look it with perspective, well, it's there, it's done, wasn't perfect, but you learned a lot from it. So
Yeah. And I remember, if you let me, another case
of course,
Yeah.
that is related with the Dark Master. As you know, the Dark Master is like a really tiny character with big pixels, so it sounds like it should be easy, right? But for some reason, it was really, really hard to do it, because you had to express a lot with really few pixels. It has a lot of animations, a lot of PFX. So, and also I remember in the design side, we did a lot of changes because it was even harder than it is now. So yeah, I remember that we were iterating that one a lot, and it was more difficult. But when I started that task, it was like, it's a little sprite, it will be easy, but it was not. It was not. Working in a boss is always more difficult than you should expect.
yeah. And with
Actually,
the Light Master, was it the same case, or was the Light Master first because he
No,
doesn't move?
because Light Master it's only in the cinematic, so that means that it has really few animations. Some of them were from the show, so that means that it was mostly done. But the Dark Master, we had to create most of the art from scratch.
around the design as well for the
Yeah.
gameplay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you did an amazing job because I have never noticed the sprites. I'm too busy getting my
Thank
butt
you.
kicked, I guess.
Yeah, the apple spinning. That's
It's
just
a
you
very
wouldn't think.
difficult one.
Yeah, probably is one of the most difficult ones. I think it's more difficult than the last fight of the game, but in my opinion, I don't know.
Yeah,
I swear we
yeah,
had
but
that. Did Victor say the same thing when we spoke to?
Oh, yeah?
yes, Victor
Yeah.
and Paco did say the same thing. So I think that
Yeah.
that's the consensus in
It's
general. It's
confirmed
just
now.
so
Yeah.
quick. I cannot do it. I'm not very good at platform games either, but yeah, I'm sorry. I like Metroidvania, but that's about it. And I like them. I'm not saying I'm good at them. So moving in that same direction as the say art mix-ups, I think that all our listeners would be interesting, and me personally as well. When you start a new piece, to know if when you start a new piece of game art, what's your process? Like, do you sketch? Do you block out the shapes? Do you start with animation? Or how do you do it? Could you walk us through it?
It depends a lot of the job. For example, in Jetpack Joyride 2, I started always with a with a concept art to know exactly what I have to build, because we were working with Spine. Do you know Spine is a program for
Yes.
animating with skeletons and all that? So we needed to split all the sprite in different little pieces to animate it. So the way to go was to create a really rough sketch, divide it on pieces, build it in Spine, a really rough animation just to see if it works, and that's it. But for example, in Dandaman, it was completely different because we were working mostly with frame by frame animations. So what I did is I start always with the shapes. So when I have the shape, I know exactly what's the size of the character, what's the pose, and all that. And when you have the shapes, your brain fill the gaps. It's like you can start seeing what you need there. So it depends of the project. Also, it depends also from the designers, because we, as I said, we work closely with them. So they always are asking for some requirements, and yeah, you are trying to give them what they need, and you are trying to contribute from your side of the art, and sometimes even the artist ideas can give ideas to the designers too. So it's something really organic to work with.
Yeah, like back and forth kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I will say, I don't want to say too much, obviously, but I've seen some of the work early days on Denderman 2, and they were just like the design with the grey boxes, and that did look really fun as well. So I could see quite easily how that would blend around.
Yeah.
And other games actually. I remember a little. There's another game. There's so many games I want to talk about, but I don't want to give too much away. But the little grey box, very beautiful. Grey box character.
When you start prototyping, you have to forget about art. As I said before with the combat, that the first step is that it has to feel good without art. If you are able to do that, so with the art you can only improve that.
Yeah. From your perspective, we kind of touched on, you like drawing enemies more than heroes. But say if you were doing some specific art for an event or something like that, what would you rather draw there? Would you rather do a detailed shot of like a hero looking really cool and mighty, or enemies absolutely destroying?
That's a difficult one. It's impossible to choose because, as I said, probably there is a time to do one of these. You don't want to be doing the same for a long time. For example, the hero is something really important. It's an important piece that you will be looking at the hero all the time. So it's really important, and it's really rewarding character to work on. But in the other hand, working in the enemies is really fun because you have to think in the expressions and personalities of the different characters. So it's really fun to work on them too. So yeah, it depends on the time. Both
and
are
variety.
Yeah, both are really important. So can choose.
Actually, did you get your hands on the Dandaman icon for the app itself? Was that you? Or?
I don't remember because we had a lot of different icons along the way.
Yeah.
Some of them I work on those, but others don't. So yeah, it's been a long time now, so I don't remember. I don't really remember.
That's fair. We just came with 100 Dandaman questions for today's episode because it's such an iconic one that people really want to hear about. So
yeah, it's good luck that's your favorite project as well.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would have been really, really awkward.
Yeah, don't bring that back up. I don't want to. Not the apple. No.
Not the apple. Oh no, I really like this story about the apple. I feel like that's me for real.
It's something that you don't think about it, but when you start working on that, it's like, what? You will get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to pause right here and we'll come back to this chat next week for part 2.
Yeah, look forward to our usual community questions, guess the comment, and the always anticipated answer to Where's Dandaman 2? So yeah, we'll see you then.
See you next time.
Coming up next time on the Halfbrick Show.
Dandaman is a mix between a platformer and a beat 'em up, so it's not just a platformer. I think that's one of the points that the reason because Dandaman is so unique, because there are games similar to Dandaman.